form, it's just not going to pan out. And so, I mean, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it's just seeing that over and over that oftentimes basic things just are left unattended. Oversights on um, very obvious problems are just ignored.
Okay, so we need to get to those fundamentals and do all those things like have a fast loading page and have like the up-to-date phone number. When someone gets to the web page, it's clear where to go and what to do, and we know
Yep.
what the ranking is. And with all this whole jumble, with all this list, I mean, what is there anything that you see like commonly missed out on? Like when you go and you look at these websites and you say like, okay, this and this needs to be fixed. Like, is there like a common maybe thread that we all can look at our websites right now and fix?
Yeah, and this is true not just for law firms, but for really any business. When I look at a website, when a first load of a website comes up, I almost always just kind of completely set aside the design for just a moment, and I look at a couple of things, and I think most SEO people do this too. I look at the title tag of the page that I'm on because I want to see what the title is trying to rank, that page for. I look at the heading tags and I look at some of the phrases that are within the page because Google's not going to rank a page if it's not helpful for the query and if it's not positioned to tell Google the story about what that page is about. So those are the things that I typically look for. And a lot of businesses, they tend to either under optimize their title tags. Sometimes it'll be just a service. But if they're really targeting a locale, a city, and they don't have the city in the title tag, and that's their primary market, to me, that's a pretty big oversight. Things like that are rudimentary things that I typically look for when I'm just trying to discover, is this website optimized? Did anybody even make an attempt? How long is the page? What elements are on the page? Is there anything visually interesting about the page? Are there strong calls to action? Does the page display expertise, authority, experience, trustworthiness, those types of things that we know are important to Google?
Okay, and so that makes a lot of sense that when if we're looking at our own website or we're kind of looking at from it like an academic viewpoint, it's tempting this to look at the colors and the design, but you say, well, I'm putting myself in the position of someone who is a prospect, a future customer, someone who has this
Yes,
urgent need, and
100%.
yeah, and they won't really care that much how the website looks, but is what I searched and found on Google and clicked and ended up on the web page, do all those things line up? And am I on the right track towards getting my problem solved? And so that's a helpful, unique mindset is just for a starting point, look at the title tag and see if there's even something optimized. And you say, especially if you're based in a city or an area, is that specifically in the title tag? And that leads to kind of looking into those other things. And so since you're the man, right, when it comes to this law firm SEO, is there like special like areas of the law that you think work best or that you prefer, or like kind of what sorts of like legal like subcategories are your favorite?
I think the obscure areas of practice nowadays, I've been doing this for a decade. Nowadays, the obscure kind of non-common areas of practice are really interesting to me because I haven't done them a lot in the past. There's always going to be excitement around bringing on any client for most consumer types of law, personal injury, family law, divorce, and criminal defense, and those types of things. But some of the most unique things that we brought on that really kind of gave me a lot of insight and surprise to how legal consumers behave is estate planning lawyers who focus on multi-million-dollar estates. You wouldn't think that a person who had $100 million estate would go to Google to find an estate planning lawyer, but I have clients who've had that exact situation happen. You wouldn't think that a lawyer who markets to other lawyers and judges only would find success on the internet, but I've had that exact situation happen. So my preconception of how people use Google has been thrown out of the window years ago, and those types of um, unordinary or inordinary types of practices really drive my interest because they're just so unusual and non-typical.
I like that a lot. Like no one is too good for Google. And you're reminding me like I knew years ago a web designer type of guy, and he preferred to make websites for like parts manufacturers and people who
Mhm.
were like every town has that industrial kind of area where you don't really go unless you're looking for like the e-waste place or something like that. And they would just have these websites because say such and such like manufacturer of some kind is looking for just this part or just this
Right.
thing. And what are they going to go and look in the phone book or talk to whoever they talk to? No, they're going to do some Googling and they're going to find some website that hopefully has some of this information, contact details, catalog, whatever. And so, so you kind of mentioning this just kind of makes me think that this whole idea of marketing that we do is to kind of make the uninteresting interesting, right? And
Sure,
kind of
sure.
by using our imagination and using marketing and copywriting and psychology and all those sorts of things. And so part of what makes this interesting and fun is stories, right? Because stories grab you and there's a beginning and a middle and an end. And so as far as the work you do, law firms you help, the websites you make, is there a fun story that sort of comes to the surface for you that you feel like sharing?
Yeah, I do actually have a client in mind, kind of going back to what we were earlier saying. I have a client who, about 8 years ago, we started working together, and he does personal injury law, and that's really all that he does. But then he also did this one kind of weird area of practice, wasn't related whatsoever, called partition referee work. And nobody's really ever heard of partition referee. Most lawyers have never even heard of partition referee. You wouldn't go looking for it unless you absolutely needed this one type of lawyer. And there's only maybe a dozen or so in the state that really do this area of law really specifically. And he promised me up and down, he said, I only want you to pay attention to personal injury. I only pay attention to personal injury. I just want car accident leads, just want bike accidents and pedestrian. Those are the things that make my practice churn. And so obviously we step forward that with that. But what he didn't know was that in a previous job that I had, I actually had some unique experience with this very obscure area of law called partition referee. And I said, if it's okay with you, why don't we just create a page for this, area of law? And he said, well, you can waste your time if you like, but you go right ahead. And if do it until your heart's content. So we developed a page of content and we started working on it. And it was kind of in the background, but our primary focus was personal injury. Well, fast forward 8 years now, that area of law is now well over 60% of his practice. And he sends me emails almost weekly about new partition referee cases that he received, just 100% solely based off of his website, because he was also convinced that lawyers won't hire somebody who's not in their existing network. And a judge who needs to appoint a partition referee would never go to the internet to find one. And that was completely demolished what his thoughts were about that. So that was actually a really fun example.
That's funny. I love that story. And it's kind of hammering home some of these points that you've been mentioning. And I think that like one kind of repeat theme in what we're talking about here is that there's the self-limiting belief that I'm only going to look at for a solution in my inner circle, or who the heck would look for to me for a solution if I'm not in their inner circle. And like you don't
Sure.
know unless you try. You need to be on the map, and maybe their inner circle is limited. I mean, that's kind of the double-edged sword there, right? Is that in your inner circle, maybe you do trust a lot of people there, but also you're in a bubble and the
Sure.
knowledge is limited. And then there might be people that say, I'm not really an expert in this partition thing, so you need to go kind of outside your zone in order to find that. And then also something that seems to be recurring in our discussion is just the value in you being a SEO and web designer and website creator in the legal space, where if someone said, well, hey, I'm some law practice and I need to go and find a web designer SEO, and they do, and if this person maybe doesn't eat, breathe, and sleep legal, then they'll have to learn these things. They might make some kind of mistakes versus someone like you who like you're deep in it. You've seen maybe who knows how many thousands of other lawyer websites. You know, you've seen it all. You know what to do. You know what not to do. I mean, is that on the right track? How there's just the value in having a website creator that's specific to their niche?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that I've seen it all. I've seen a lot, and there are some things that still surprise me and pique my interest. And oh, why did they do that? Let me take a look at this. But there's specifically for complex types of businesses, lawyers, physicians, oftentimes dentists, and they're high competition and they're high competition geographies. It's very difficult to expect that someone who doesn't do it on a daily basis for that industry is going to have a high level of success, mainly because of the amount of expertise and specialization that has to go into working with a law firm and what you can and can't do, what you should and shouldn't do, what you can say and what you can't say. But also having your finger on the pulse of what other law firms are doing successfully and unsuccessfully. Because if a client comes to me and says, I've got this great idea, and I say, that sounds like a great idea, but here's someone who did that, and here's two people or four people, four firms that have done that, and here's kind of the result of that, and I can prevent them from spinning their wheels a lot just because I have knowledge of what's going on.
And I've had conversations like that over the years as well, where someone says, "Hey, I've got this brand new idea. No one's ever thought of that before." And I say, 5, 10 years ago, this was done. And not to say that you shouldn't investigate it or you shouldn't try, but you think this is brand new innovation and it has this name, but really it used to have that name. And if we do want to try it, then we should go into it knowing that when it was done before, there were these mistakes, and we should be on the lookout for that. And it might not pan out. So set your
Absolutely.
expectations. It's not just this new thing. And so we've been talking also a lot as far as the content. So I mean, what do you have to say about that? Like, is there anything you advise these lawyers as far as like, do you suggest they do like video regularly or like the articles regularly or update them or check their rankings, or just what is there to say about legal content?
Yeah, so I think legal content is one of those types of things that you have to be very careful about outsourcing. Many content marketers and businesses that present themselves as content experts, a lot of times what they do is they hire from non-US countries for non-native US English speaking people, and people who don't have legal expertise. And the cost is very low because of that. But the time that a lawyer would need to edit that content and make it marketable in any way or true in any way can far exceed the amount of time it would be to just invest in proper content up front. So when it comes to content, at least written content for a lawyer's blog or a LinkedIn page or something along those sorts, we learned a long time ago that we curated our writers to be legal writers, most of whom are JDs. And every client gets a writer who's assigned to them, and that writer is tasked with learning that lawyer's practice and what makes them tick, what's unique about them, what's their experience, what's their wins. And so that way, when they're writing content, they can weave those pieces of information into an article. So there's that. I definitely still believe that blogs and written content are the most valuable for Google, but I can also see the writings on the wall when it comes to short form content. Short form content right now is one of the fastest growing types of content there is. So I hate to say it, but TikTok, it's crazy how fast it's growing. YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, these types of mediums, I don't think lawyers should dismiss them because we see crazy things on those platforms, but it's just another medium in which to connect with your audience.
I agree. And the thing that took me way too long to figure out with content is that people are different. And so you have maybe
Sure.
like the longer form YouTube, like the 30-minute podcast, and you have the blog post. And then I've also noticed, yeah, these like on Twitter and on TikTok, some of these lawyers, and there's like the law by Mike. I see him like every couple of days, right? He's like, here's what to do if the cops come knocking on your door, do these three things. And it's like fun and outrageous and it's short, but it's also valuable. And so
Yeah.
these are all kind of all these new frontiers to be thinking about. And you know, a lot of work to be done, but that just means we need to be organized. We need to have a team, and we need to be speaking with someone like you who can kind of guide us. And you mentioned earlier about the EEAT, how like Google looks for these specific things that you know what you're talking about, and that it's true and factual, but also that it relates back to your own expertise, and then it's like
Sure.
personalized to you and your law firm. And so there's a lot to think about, a lot of ways to go wrong. And so in our kind of the tail end of our conversation here, like what am I not asking you? Was there some area that you really want to like speak up about and kind of near the, the end here, just to kind of speak to your audience? Like what's kind of the missing question in our conversation?
Well, one of the things I really like to talk about, even though I do law firm marketing, law firm SEO, I'm really an advocate for small businesses. I love small businesses. I'm a small business. You're a small business. And anytime anybody asks me what type of business to get in, I often tell them if they have skills, if they have a curious mind, if they like to know how things work, SEO as a career is a great platform. Um, and you get to make your own hours, you get to be your own boss. It's challenging, of course, but I'm always encouraging of someone who wants to start a career that maybe not what they're doing currently. Is SEO is a great side gig if you can figure out how to start it properly and how to enter into that market. I think that small business owners or excuse me, entrepreneurs in general who don't necessarily have a direction yet, they might want to look at SEO as a career because it's been great for me and it's empowered a lot of people in the SEO industry to make a really good living and provide a great service to people who really need reputable vendors.
And who knows, maybe they'll get so good at SEO that they'll niche down as you have, and they'll be
Sure.
the SEO for weight loss or
Right.
for accountants or something like that.
Yeah, not law firms, not law firms.
Right, stay
But
away. That's
but yeah,
taken.
I'm going to tell them how terrible that is. But
Right.
no, yeah, absolutely. I think niching down is a good strategy, and it helps create your expertise in a specific field. But I mean, just helping a small business feels good. On the inside, it feels good. There's monetary reward, obviously, but just helping a small business succeed is very rewarding.
I agree completely, and that's what will sustain you is the giving back part of it, and the like the whole abundance whole idea of, well, you could be just sitting in your room or sitting in your basement and doing stuff, but if you go out there and you change the world in a small way and you help this other small business get more
Sure.
reach, get more customers, make the customers consistent, and then they can hire more employees and open new locations, and you're really
100%.
putting it back and doing some good in the world. And so, what we're doing here is showing you off, right? We're on a podcast. It'll be on YouTube. You'll rank
Thank
for
you.
keywords. We'll transcribe it. But that also means that once you've now demonstrated the value, that they know what the next step is, and they know to go to your website, which is everestlegalmarketing.com. And so, as far as a next step call to action, is that landing page a good place to go? Is there a specific place someone should go at this point now that they've learned a few things from you?
If you do go to my website, everestlegalmarketing.com, if you're a law firm specifically, there's a button on there that says SEO audit. One of the things that you can do yourself a favor right now, go to the website, click on SEO audit, find your business within our widget, and do a free SEO audit. That'll give you all the information or a lot of really great information about how your website is perceived by Google and search engines. And it can give you an idea as to, do I need to put more effort into this? How much work has been done? Is my current SEO performing? Are they not performing? And if you wanted to schedule some time with me, of course, we'd talk about that.
Fantastic. And so that is everestlegalmarketing.com. And even when you go there, you'll be amazed at some of the cool innovations that Doug has put in. We want to keep this evergreen, but and so who knows what will change in the future, but there's like the live chat with the video on it. And we've all seen the live chat, but when you have a guy saying, "Hey, I'm live chat right here,"
Absolutely.
that's a super cool touch. And imagine you in whatever industry you're in, whatever niche, imagine you applying some of these cool things. And so, Doug mentioned all of these kind of things that maybe you could be doing with SEO, and it's easy to get overwhelmed. And a way to conquer that overwhelm is to get some help, is to get this SEO audit, because maybe you're reading all day long about videos and articles about SEO, and you sometimes end up more confused than when you started. So instead, have Doug and his team look at what's there and kind of get that inventory taken and see how far you come and what could be done. And that way you can begin to make some progress and kind of chip away at this whole SEO thing, because better SEO means you get better leads, you get better ranking, you get more people coming, and you get more customers, which means you grow your business. So the next step in you growing your business is to go to everestlegalmarketing.com. And as we're wrapping up our conversation here, Doug, it's always fun to touch base one last time and ask about like a quote or lesson that has either helped you or can help us in our conversation. So what comes to mind as far as a quote or lesson, just to wrap up our conversation?
Whatever industry you're in, don't be afraid to look at other industries and see how that could impact your industry. I look to other SEO professionals who don't do legal marketing to find ideas about how I can apply that to my agency, and it's helped tenfold.
I love that. Look at the other industries and look at what they're doing that no one in your industry is doing, that you're not doing, that you can apply, and people will think you're such a genius because you invented something. Well, you sort of are a genius because you thought to
Bingo.
look where no one else looked. And the place where you should be looking right now is everestlegalmarketing.com. We'll see you there. And Mr. Doug Bradley, great seeing you.
Thank you so much for having me on, and I really appreciate the time.